I was going to do the fun it's time thing, but I believe you get sued if you do the whole it's time thing. So, in other words, welcome to our UFC 300 preview, where Jackson, Grant, and myself are going to walk you through this card. As you can tell, we still have yet to fix our technical issues, but we're excited to walk through this fight card with you here. As you've probably anticipated, this is going to be a pretty damn fun card. It's not going to be anything like we've had in these past ones where we're falling asleep. But Jackson, Grant, the first fight we have here is Davison Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt was the best UFC fighter on the planet for what was it, 5 minutes or whatever. Walk me
Yeah.
through how this fight's going to go down.
Yeah, so we have Cody opening up here as the far cheaper fighter on prediction strike than Figueredo. Cody is 879, Figueredo 1517, which kind of reflects public consensus on this fight. You're still getting, I'd say, better odds on prediction strike than you're getting anywhere else if you're on the Cody Garbrandt side of things. And these are two former champs. Figgy, former flyweight champ. He's sort of trying to reinvent himself at a new weight class, 10 pounds heavier than where he was champ at. In his last fight against Rob Font, he looked good at the weight, was shooting takedowns very effectively. He has a BJJ black belt, just a good wrestler, good takedowns. Cody, former bantamweight world champ, he's had his highs and lows in his career for sure. Great boxer, real power, good footwork. He got a great win over Dominic Cruz. Everything was there pretty much. But, when Cody Garbrandt is off, he sometimes wings his punches, chases those finishes, and will get himself hurt or KO'd. He's coming off a first round knockout win over Brian Kelly. And I would say Cody is the better striker. He's a lot bigger. And if Figgy comes in here thinking he can just get him to the ground, like be on top of him with get control time, I don't know if he's necessarily going to win. Cody, though, has been knocked out hard several times in the last few years. And it's because, like I said, he's kind of chases finishes when he's kind of not fighting his best. I like the value on Cody here. There's not much value to be had from a prediction strike standpoint here in the prelims in my eyes. So I'll take it where I can get it. He's a great wrestler, clean boxing. Figgy shouldn't have one punch power at this weight class. And hopefully we can just trust Cody to fight with the right game plan. He needs to be the guy walking him forward a little bit more than sort of dancing around for points, I think, because Figgy won't be scared to get in his face. So.
Yeah, I'm sick of Cody Garbrandt, honestly. I've seen him lose too many fights. I don't think he's beat an effective fighter in close to, we'll call it 7 years, we'll be generous. I see Figueiredo cruising to a win here. He looked good enough at the division. I would be a little bit weary if he hadn't fought in the division yet. But he looked dominant against Rob Font, a guy that made Cody Garbrandt look horrendous in a unanimous victory a few years ago. So the only common opponent they've had in the division, drastically different outcomes, and I think Figueiredo's well set up to continue a winning streak here at bantamweight.
Yeah, I think we're on the same logic there. Just don't overthink it. Go with Figueiredo. Don't get lost in the memories. But the next fight, we do need to get a little bit lost in the memories here for, because we got one of the oldest fighters. It might actually be the oldest fighter, and that of Jill Miller. I'll let Jackson and Grant correct me on that specifically. But how do we see this going?
Right. They're both old.
I think I'm going to go with the Jim Miller side just to get it kicked off here, just because why not? It seems like the perfect setting. Is there a chance he's going to retire here? I don't know.
I would hope so.
This seems like
it feels like a spot where like they kind of he's been there for the other huge cards that the company's thrown. I think he fought at 100 and 200, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So it seems like he's kind of just been
he's not going to make it to 400
and trying to get to this moment where he could fight in UFC 300, and I would be shocked if he doesn't retire. Probably this feels like the right send off, win or lose here.
Yeah, I would agree. And Wells, you said you're on the Jim Miller side of things, you think?
Yeah, off the rip, why not? Just because it's like your last stand in theory, right? Like,
gonna be fired up.
Well, it's just me. It's like what we talked about with RJ. Where, like, you have these things going on in your brain. It's just like, fuck, this is the last chance I have in theory to show myself off. I'm gonna go big. And if he doesn't get like the win, he's probably gonna get knocked out or something. Would be my bet. Like if it's me, I'm going all out. Everything I got.
Yeah. For me, like, um, I think Bobby is probably better positioned to win this. But if like I'm looking at this from a DFS standpoint and I can already see myself doing this or something, like I'm I'm exposing myself to both of them, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Um, but I think Bobby is probably better positioned here. I think he is the more expensive fighter on Prediction Strike by like $1. Um, Jim, like well said, can build an insane legacy here 100, 200, 300 altogether. Clean boxer, good wrestling, has that veteran wherewithal to him. Um, definitely shows his age, continues to defy it, though. We saw that against Gabriel Benitez. Wrestling and leg kicks looked on point there, so did his forward pressure for his age, especially. And Bobby Green, we know him. He's a busy striker. He's got that Philly shell, good defense. Um, he has that low guard, has some wrestling as a backup plan to his striking, but is primarily a striker. 11 knockouts under his belt. He's typically a volume guy. He did one punch knockout Grant Dawson. Um, I don't know how much power is actually displayed in that knockout, though. Since then, Jalen Turner flatlined him. Ref refused to stop that fight. Bobby is a 2-1 favorite ish, I think, right now. $1 more expensive on PS. You're getting good value for him on PS. Um, and I just think at this point in their careers, probably lean towards Bobby. He should be the better fighter, and the odds reflect that. He's a great boxer. He has been KO'd, but Jim Miller isn't at all Jalen Turner or Drew Dober at this point in his career. On the feet, I think the King should do really well against a guy like Jim. But if he does stay in the pocket too long, that Philly shell could hurt him. We obviously can't trust that chin as much as we used to be able to. So Jim has a chance to catch him for sure. I think Bobby is going to be the slight pick for me, though.
That makes sense. Yeah, it just makes sense. I'm curious your thoughts though on the next fight here, Jessica Andrade. I'm learning how to pronounce names better. I'm very proud of myself.
Oh yeah,
Let's see if
that was good.
Thank you, thank you. Uh, I also like Tapology because they're always fun. Like this looks like it was made in the '80s, and then this is like I just finished my fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, walk me through this. I'm more impartial to Andrade. From what I saw, she just seems like better, and the initial readings also are pointing towards her. But let me know what you guys think. It looks like it's a pretty fair fight from what I'm looking at here.
So price-wise, I'm pretty sure Marina is a few dollars more expensive. These fighters are both in like the $10 to $15 range. Um, Marina is the consensus underdog, so kind of inverse value there on Prediction Strike. But Andrade, former world champion, has been a contender at multiple weight classes, has beat some of the best women that are out there in the UFC. Great striker, decent power. Or good power, I should say. She's almost always the smaller, shorter fighter in her fights. And her BJJ and takedowns aren't the best, but she will still get that fight to the ground, start pounding away. She's 100% a bully fighter, and if she can't bully you, she can't win the fight. She's coming off a knockout win over Mackenzie Dern, where she looked really good. Marina Rodriguez, good boxer, solid speed, power. She definitely has one-punch knockout power at this weight division. Not the best takedown defense, so typically works from the outside, uses range well, is tall for this class, and fights pretty technically overall. She does have that one-punch knockout power, like I said. And she can grind out a win or a finish. It's coming off a TKO win over the Karate Hottie. And like I said, Jessica needs to bully girls to win. And she could absolutely come in and just take her down instantly. She's a big, strong, physical girl and definitely has that kind of power. But for me, I think Marina has a chance to get out really good here. I think she's a lot better than Jessica Andrade is on the feet. I think she's going to get hit pretty bad coming forward with that wild style that she has. and she could really get pieced up on the way in. So Marina is the pick for me. I think the gap on the feet is going to be apparent here.
Sure. Where are you leaning, Grant?
Yeah, I'll trust Jackson's opinion on these earlier fights for now. Keep these ones a little shorter.
All right, sounds good. All right, moving on to our next bout here, though. We've got Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano. I think we're probably all going to be on the same page here, but we will see in about 2 seconds. The Spider is where I like Jackson's talk about this behind the scenes. It just seems like a really good spot for Jalen Turner, the Tarantula, to really get going.
Yeah. Love this spot for Jalen Turner. Neither of these guys have had a full training camp. Jalen, really good boxer, is huge, 6'3", and uses that length well. He can come forward at his opponents without actually even being inside the pocket. And he's known as a striker, even though 3 of his last 5 wins were by sub. Renato, his opponent, high-level BJJ guy, black belt, technical striking, pretty weak chin at this point in his career, but he can definitely hang with the better strikers technique-wise. And when it comes to ground game, he has 47% offensive takedown accuracy, coming off a really close win over Drew Dober, where Drew made a bad mistake late in the fight and pretty much forfeited the win to Renato. Renato now has some momentum. He won a fight he probably was going to lose. We'll see if that's enough here against Jalen Turner, who is such a big dude, absolute sniper on the feet. We've seen time and time again, this dude is a straight finisher. He flatlined Bobby Green. I don't think he has any decision wins in his career. All finishes. Moicano is dangerous on the ground. He needed every single millisecond of that control time he got over Drew Dober to beat him, even though Drew messed up late. And he's still a huge, I think he has a bunch of striking problems. I don't know if he's going to be able to stand at all with Jalen Turner. So I love Jalen here. I think he's going to get the knockout inside the distance. He always does when he wins, and I have him to win. So,
right on.
Or the sub. He's been looking good there too.
All right. Any more thoughts on this one, Grant, or just moving on?
No.
Yes, sir. All right. Nice and easy. I will let you know. I'm on Sadiq Youssef more than likely for this one.
You're on who?
If you're
Youssef.
Sadiq Youssef. I see the value there, but on PS, I mean, you have Lopez, who is sitting at half the price of Youssef.
On PS, we will be on Lopez,
favorite, albeit a narrow one, in terms of the consensus odds. But on PS, I mean, you get a huge underdog value for a guy that I really like his odds to win. He's coming off of 2 straight wins. I think he's versatile enough to be able to win this one in a variety of ways. We've seen Youssef, his last fight, lost by decision. Ton of decision wins and losses in his career. He's kind of able to stall and outpoint some of his opponents. He did have a crazy submission in his second to last fight a little over a year ago. But I like the spot for Lopez here, younger fighter. You have more potential, I guess, going forward as well, in addition to the fact that you just get crazy value on PS. I think I would probably be on the Lopez side if I was taking those odds, even just taking the PS thing out of the equation. But on PS, it's not even up for debate, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you, Grant. I think I'm going to be taking this Diego Lopez action on prediction strike, but I don't know if I'm confident enough anywhere else to really take it. I do like Diego slightly here, though. I know the UFC definitely thinks big things of this guy. He's a super dangerous grappler. He actually coaches some really good fighters, including Alexa Grasso, and she's looked awesome recently. He's her MMA coach, so he doesn't have the best takedowns or takedown defense, but he is super, super skilled in his grappling. Good BJJ and striking. He's coming off a knockout win over Pat Sabatini. Sadiq will 100% be the best striker Diego has fought in the UFC. Sadiq, 7-2, very wide variety of attacks, pretty much outstruck every single one of his opponents, including in his 2 losses. He also has a solid get-up game if he gets taken down to the ground. And I think it's going to be a tricky one to call just because Diego is the more well-rounded fighter. He has dangerous BJJ, decent striking. And what I'm mainly worried about is if Diego will be willing enough to use his versatility in this fight. Like, as good of BJJ as he has, as good of a grappler as he is, Diego is the type of guy that, like, wants to get in your face and try to get that knockout over anything else. And it's UFC 300. Like, who doesn't want to get that UFC 300 knockout?
Yep.
So, I hope he doesn't come out there just striking with Sadiq. And that's what makes me really worried, just because, like, it's literally all Sadiq does. And he has so much power, like, he can knock anyone out. But, I think there is also a good chance that Sadiq may not be able to withstand the pressure from Diego. And if Diego tries to wrestle him, I think he has a solid chance. So at this value, I'll take the prospect that I've been hyping up for a while here, Diego Lopez.
Hell yeah. And I will make sure to be investing on Prediction Strike because you can't miss out on things like that. But the next one, though, we have Kayla Harrison versus Holly Holm. It was fun going on the Holly Holm train, or going against the Holly Holm train, but I think the Holly Holm train is coming to a stop now. I will say both of these women would beat the shit out of me. But, yeah, that's really all I got here. You have a 9-year difference, though, in age, though, which I think is very important for Kayla Harrison. That's the only actual serious comment I have. But, yeah, I would be...
Yeah, 42 is nuts.
Is that earless? Or I'm assuming that's supposed to be fearless, not earless. But you never know with UFC and Mike Tyson. But anyways, moving forward.
Yeah, Kayla... sort of a freak of nature here. I think the only question...
It's also a crazy nickname, the Preacher's Daughter. The fuck?
Yeah, that's sick. Kayla is like a different animal. I think the only question that people really have about her in this fight is, like, A, if she's even going to make weight, because, like, in the PFL, she fought at 155 pounds, just 20 pounds heavier than the weight class she's going to be fighting in now. She's never competed at a weight that low. And I don't think anyone is out there saying Holly Holm is going to win this because she's currently the better fighter. But I think it's more like there's questions about Kayla. Maybe she'll gas. Like,
and it's like a checking thing.
She's like already, she's fought in the MMA, but it's like, how will it translate to the UFC, I guess. But she's a 2-time gold medalist. She and Holly, former bantamweight champ, and has been fighting the best of the best for years. Good kickboxer, 42 years old though. And her style, luckily, is pretty resilient to age, withstands the test of time because she doesn't really rely on her speed too much or her chin. She's coming off the Ritalin-induced overturned decision loss to Mayra Buena Silva. And Kayla is new to the UFC, but not to MMA. She was fighting in the PFL. And she's the only debut on this card, this UFC 300 card, because she's such a big prospect. Perhaps the most accomplished judo practitioner of all time. Absolutely rock solid, doesn't have the best striking, but has a ton of power. She uses to set up takedowns, which she knows she has in her bag because of that judo. We did already see Holly Holm beat a world-class judo practitioner in Ronda Rousey. We are so many years past that now, though. Kayla is a different animal. I think she probably blows through Holly here. She might spend a little bit of time early on in the fight, like feeling out the waters, but I think eventually she just gets it to the ground and it's over with.
Hell yeah. All right, moving on to our next one, though. I do have a bit of a stance on this one, but I'm curious to see, who do you think I will be standing on between Qatar and Alho?
I hope it's Cater, but I don't know.
Yep, you're right. I am on the Cater side. So that is where I'm at. I'm not on Funkmaster MMA. Let me know what you guys think of this particular fight here.
I agree. Never really been an Aljo guy. We have Cater obviously coming off of a severe knee injury. Hasn't fought in what'll be almost 2 years, a year and a half, I think, since his loss to Arnold Emmett. So tough to really know how he'll adjust after that. Also, we have Aljo moving up a division, his first fight in featherweight. So two kind of factors playing into this one that we don't really know, I guess, how both of these fighters will react to these two things. Cater pre-injury, though, was definitely a precise striker. I mean, we obviously saw Aljo's chin not really hold up in that fight against O'Malley. Now moving up against an even bigger fighter who's also a strong striker. I like the matchup for Cater, especially at underdog odds on a sports book or on PS at $4 cheaper than the price of Aljo. So for me, I'm all over Cater in this one, but I'm open to your opinion, Jackson.
Damn, that's some good value for Cater there. But I mean, this is going to be another tough one that I'm not like the most confident in, but I have been leaning Aljamain here. Like you said, Calvin, great boxer, very technical. And he does have stoppages, not the most raw power kind of guy, but he's big. Um, One stat that I was kind of looking at of his that says a lot about him is his takedown defense, which is at 91%, super high. Um, Looking at his fight log, though, it hasn't really been tested by someone who's a sort of a pure grappler like Aljamain is. He'll just wrap around you super hard to get off. Will get takedowns, get you to your back, stick to you. When he's striking, he uses kicks to manage range well, and has a good differential. Lands almost 5 significant strikes a minute, absorbing 2 because he has such good footwork. And he's coming off the title loss to Sean O'Malley. Aljo, not a great wrestler, even though, like I say, he's a very skilled grappler. 24% takedown accuracy, which isn't very good. And is 12 of 63 on takedowns in his last 5 fights, which is insane, sort of. And I think
that also means he is just sending a lot.
What was that?
That also means that he is just sending a ton of takedowns, whereas if you just said he landed 3 takedowns or whatever per fight, it looks a lot better than...
Yeah, exactly. Like if you were to just look at like 12 takedowns, you're like, oh, 12 takedowns. But yeah, I think Calvin's takedown defense is going to be a huge factor here, and however that looks might play like a pretty pivotal role in the fight. It is the 91% seems kind of like a hollow stat to me, but I think there's obviously a chance that it gets backed up. So, we'll see about that. There's also ring rust to consider. We don't know how Calvin will look away after 18 months away, knee surgery. Those are 2 big reasons I like Aljo here. And I do think, even though he has low takedown accuracy, Qatar has high takedown defense. Even if he doesn't get the takedowns against Calvin, I think he could still potentially win the fight with his striking. Like, when Aljo isn't striking with the likes of like Sean O'Malley and Petr Yan, he can be really good, super active, comes forward at you and scores a bunch of points because he has such a good differential and is so high volume. And if Calvin tries to match that pace, that super high striking output of Aljo, and it's a striking match, I think it could still be a really close fight. Calvin hasn't fought many wrestlers, definitely not many great grapplers like Aljo. And I think that's the main thing for me here that I'm looking at that is that I'm not so sure Aljo needs that takedown to win like some people are might be suggesting.
All right. I love it. Now moving on to our next bout here, we've got Jiri versus Rakic. I don't really know how to feel about this particular fight. I'm not going to lie.
I'm kind of there with you, Wells.
Because it's like...
it's an interesting one.
Jiri is...
a little similar to the last fight in the sense that we have a fighter who's coming off of an ACL injury in a fight, his against Jan Blachowicz. But, he also hasn't fought in what'll be 2 years by fight night. So another ring rust debate here. Jiri obviously has had probably higher highs in this division, obviously. Didn't look amazing in his last fight. Obviously, it seemed like he might have rushed back a little bit because this fight was scheduled and his shoulder injury, or was it a shoulder, something like that? But it seems like he might have rushed back a little too soon and didn't look all the way there in that loss to Alex Pereira. But I kind of like the bounce back spot here for Jiri. There is value on PS for Rakic probably at a $2 cheaper, and he is the consensus favorite. This fight feels like a 50-50 to me. I'm struggling to find an exact lean, but I think there's value for both of the underdogs, whether you're looking at it on a sportsbook or PS. I would be fine taking either of the guys. Just depends on where you want to put your money.
Yeah. Think I gotta lean Jiri here. Former light heavyweight champ, very dangerous, plenty of cardio, plenty of power.
Samurai.
And chin, he had pretty good chin, kind of got depleted in his last fight, but he gets hit a ton, and he trusts his chin maybe a little bit too much. So like he likes to stay. Sometimes he stands in the pocket a little bit too much, which obviously failed him against Pereira, like Grant said. Taking on Rakic, dynamic striker, uses length well, mixes in kicks to the head, body, legs, all effective. And he usually tries to be technical and avoid brawls, low volume, generally. Coming back after 2 years away, blowing out his leg against Jan Blazkowicz. From what I've seen in Rakic's career, he is the more technical guy 99% of the time, but the guys who beat him tend to be guys who can stay in his face, make fights ugly, and don't let him out-technical them. It's also, he's been away for 2 years. First fight is on a huge card, like against perhaps the most dangerous guy in the entire division. It's sort of a recipe for disaster. Jiri is not the most technical guy, but he is definitely the more dangerous of the two. And I don't think Rakic is going to finish Jiri, so I'm leaning Jiri. It kind of sounded like that you were sort of leaning Jiri here too, Grant. But
yeah, I like the value on Jiri. It did feel like the fight against Pereira could be kind of thrown out a little bit with rushing back, and you're fighting against such a dangerous guy, and he lands one shot, and then you're kind of screwed. I do like the value there.
Yeah. Love that. But now going back here into our next one, I'm going to be alone on an island. So, I'm obsessed with Bo Nickel. I love Bo Nickel. Do not get me wrong. Probably one of my favorite prospects. Was very into him. I'm probably going to be on Cody Brundage.
I'm on Cody Brundage too, dude. Well, I'm not on.
He's not going to win
on Cody Brundage, but
if
I see the path.
Like, I think this is the best value on the card. It doesn't get better. Like, the reality is Bo Nickel
odds, like,
is
the furthest apart odds like ever.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Bo Nickel should decimate. The only thing that
might have been more was your boy that fought.
The random Val Woodburn that came out.
Cousin or whatever. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I don't think Brundage has much of a shot in this fight, but for it to be as big of a favorite as you can see right there, to me, is nuts.
You have to have sprinkles.
The UFC doesn't like. I don't know why. It feels like in every fight, Bo Nickel is like a minus 2,500 favorite or something like it. There's never been a fight where you're like, oh, Bo could really struggle here. It seems like you may think this is the one, but I mean, I don't see it too much. Maybe it's worth a little sprinkle when you can get crazy value like that, but I don't see him losing this one.
The reality is I don't either.
Yeah.
It's just if he were to lose a spot here. Like, why not?
Yeah, that's fair.
Bo, big-time wrestler, national champ wrestler. He transitioned to MMA very well, but fighting style is one-dimensional. He gets it to the ground as quickly as possible, gets the BJJ going, gets the wrestling going. He has 5 fights, 5 stoppages, most recently a knockout win over Val Woodburn, which is like, I mean, points exactly to like what Grant's saying, like Val Woodburn, who cares? Like, maybe that showed that Bo Nickel had knockout power. Maybe it showed that Val Woodburn is trash. Who stepped up on short notice. I'll give him credit for that, but
it seemed more
Cody will 100% be the best fighter that Bo Nickel has ever fought. Very heavy-handed, has that knockout power, kill or be killed kind of guy. He can also wrestle, definitely not at the level of Bo Nickel, definitely won't claim that, but he can wrestle at a high level, averages 3 takedowns a fight. His fight IQ looked sus against Cedric Dumas a little bit, and he was the guy who slammed Zach Reese to the ground in his last win, got that slam knockout. And I think he could win this fight. Like, Cody has literally knocked out as many people as Bo Nicol has fought in his career. And Bo should theoretically come forward, wrestle early, and get it done. Um, I think if there's literally anybody that could fraud check Bo,
It's
it
Cody.
could be Cody Brundage, especially in this spot. One thing I love is that Bo Nicol is coming off of his first knockout win in the UFC. Like, what sparks more confidence that you might actually be able to stand and bang with some people
Than doing
and
it.
like divert from that one-dimensional wrestling game plan than getting a knockout win in the fight before? Maybe UFC 300. Like, maybe I'm putting too much
No, I
into
think
this,
this
but
is a good
UFC
line of
300,
logic.
he comes out, starts striking with him, early KO for Cody Brundage, gets stopped. Maybe he starts
Sure.
wrestling, like only when it's too late. Like,
Yeah.
I am never taking the Bo Nicol line ever here. I mean, you can get better value for him on PS, which is good. There's huge value in that, but I like the Cody sprinkle.
I agree too. I think it's fun.
When you put it
Yeah, I like the
when you put
logic
it
you
in
put
the
there.
context that Cody Brundage winning is 3 times as likely as Tony Finau winning the Masters, I might have to be in on Brundage.
That's actually
Let's go.
All right, but quick side note: can we just do a quick picture analysis? Does this guy look like he comes home to like a family of 5 with like a bunch of cutlets in the bag or something?
Yeah, like a DeVito.
That's what I'm
DeVito
saying.
storyline.
Just like another DeVito, just like, I just won my fight against Bo Nickel! Time to get all the cutlets out! We're going crazy! Anyways,
Dude, I can't believe he's 6 feet tall with that build.
I can't believe he's from Colorado. But anyways, moving on to an actual more interesting one. This is where it gets really difficult, though, is in these next fights. Because you get a lot of personal, like, kind of bias to these as well. It's like, Armin is a phenomenal fighter, but we know what Charles Dubronx does. Like,
Bronx.
you also have the age factor playing in favor of Armin here. But I do think this is realistically a 50-50 fight. I don't think it's as separated as public is trying to put it as. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts here as you're more into the scene than I am.
Charles is easily my favorite fighter in the UFC. I'd get up for every Charles Oliveira fight. This feels like a spot that we've seen many times before. Basically, a year ago, he went into the Beneil fight as an underdog. Beneil, similar, like high-ranked guy as Sarukian, but hasn't really had that huge W that we've seen from Oliveira. Has not held the title, things like that. I don't know if you can even call Oliveira gatekeeper, really, but I mean, he's as elite of one as you could find if you would consider him such. This feels like a spot I've seen all too many times. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Oliveira on his back drag someone down there and this one like we've seen so many times before. The Makhachev fight didn't go as well as I was hoping it would. I was pretty bullish on Oliveira's chances in that one, but other than that, I mean, he's been dominant throughout his UFC career. That was his only loss in the last 7 years. He's beat many guys with the same profile as Arman, and like you said, I feel like it's pretty close to 50-50, and you can get him with a pretty big plus sign next to his name, and I'm never going to go against Charles, so take the value there.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Charles is also one of my favorite fighters for sure, and it's like he's literally everybody's favorite fighter, so it's impossible to get past public perception. And it's like everyone hates Armin Sarukian too, so it's impossible to get past public perception with this one. Personally, like before I go into like what I think about this fight, I'm not going to be doing anything with this. I'm just going to watch the Bronx be the Bronx.
I think this
hopefully.
goes the full distance regardless. I don't think it gets finished inside. Like, I think
really
people want it
see
to.
that.
I think people want it to be done inside, but I think it just goes the whole distance.
I could see that. And it's like, I like what you're saying, Grant. Like, we've seen Charles in a similar position as this before, but it's like, we've also seen Armin in a very similar position. He came in against Beneil Dariush with pretty much the exact same odds as there are now, and everyone was like, Armin sucks, Armin sucks, Armin sucks. Like, I hate this guy. No chance he loses. And he was a 2-1 favorite, just like he is now. I think, personally, if I'm being completely unbiased, I think there's an absolutely a world in which Armin comes in as the 2-1 favorite, gets it done looking like the 2-1 favorite.
For sure.
great wrestler, pieced together a nice striking game as well. I like DeBronx submission here, though. He, like, I think if Arman tries to wrestle with Charles, he could have a chance, but everyone tries to knock out Charles, so I don't really see any reason why wouldn't he wouldn't try to stand and bang with him. Arman kind of got lucky against Dariush after getting that takedown. He got hit hard with the left hook, which Charles has in abundance, like a nasty left hook. And Arman is kind of in that same situation. It's like, this is also a reason why I'm pointing towards, like, if he wrestles, he could win, but he's also a wrestler coming off of, like, a very rare knockout win. His last fight, knockout win. So maybe he looks to strike here. A lot of people look to strike with Charles Oliveira because he's so dangerous on the ground. So wouldn't be surprising at all. If that's the case, I'm going Charles. If Arman gets down and dirty with Charles, I'm scared for him.
You can also literally knock out Charles Oliveira and lose a fight too,
which is insane.
Yeah, exactly.
You could literally put him unconscious and he'll just be like, all right, I'm on my back now. Come get me.
He's just standing up. He doesn't even know what he's looking at up down there. He's just like, there's something up there.
I believe he went into the Chandler fight, the Poirier fight, the Gaethje fight, the Islam fight, and the Dariush fight, all of them as an underdog, and he won 4 out of 5.
Yeah,
and I mean, this spot just feels so similar to so many things we've seen before. I would struggle to pick against him, but I mean, there is a chance that things have changed. It's been a while for him, so we shall see.
I'm definitely not picking against Charles, but I'm also not going to be picking Charles in this one, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right. Now, moving on to our next bout that we have here. Sorry, gotta pull it up.
Is this a BMF bout thing?
Yeah.
Gaethje versus Holloway?
Yeah.
I'm on Holloway so far. This will be an interesting one. The chin has yet to be broken is the main theme here, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment.
Walk me through how this one goes. We're getting lots of legends here, so to speak. And we're also getting the best golfer in the UFC, apparently. So
Justin Gaethje?
Yeah.
I don't think I would have guessed that, but I mean...
It was a random one, but that one, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, let me know what you guys see this fight going. I feel like people might go towards Gaethje just because, I don't know, but I don't know. Walk me through how this one goes. I'm honestly a little bit lost the more I think on it.
Vegas is on Gaethje. He is a wrestler at heart, but we know he's more versatile than that. He's strung together a ton of fights in a row without even shooting a takedown, without a successful takedown. He definitely has some striking, good power, good volume. Throws with 7 significant strikes a minute, so high volume there for sure. But he does have a negative striking differential, which is like an insane thing to have when you throw 7 significant strikes a minute. And he loves to grind it out, loves ugly fights. Coming off the BMF bell win over Dustin Poirier. And Holloway, he accepted this fight instead of going for a belt in his own division. He's going for the BMF belt, which I kind of respect because it's like, he said in an interview, this is one of those sports that can pass you by before you know it, so it's like, if it's not happening soon, you can't expect it to happen soon. So instead of waiting for the fight in his division, he's just going for the BMF belt, trying to be the bad mother trucker. And he is a really, really high-level boxer, very fluid movement, 7-4 striking differential, and 84% takedown defense. Both of these guys land at an incredible rate. Justin will have the power advantage over Max for sure, but Max, he is the more technical striker for sure, has great takedown defense, and has a far better striking differential than does Gaethje. And he has plenty of 5-round experience. So we know Max Holloway's a live dog here for sure. One of the most live dogs on the card. It's just whether or not he's going to win this. Holloway, in his fight against Poirier, went up to 155 against him, got absolutely smoked. He got beat up early trying to brawl with Dustin, who had like a little bit more power than I think Max was expecting. Wasn't prepared for that. Hurt him pretty bad. And I think Max is going to be far better prepared for this bout against Gagey. He had some success as the fight against Dustin went on, like he does in a lot of fights. Gets into people's faces, trusts his chin, and tries to get it back in late into fights. He's really good at that. And I think there's serious possibility, especially if it makes it out of the first few rounds here, that Max takes it. Gagey looked really good against Dustin and Fizzy. Comes in if he comes into aggressive, like absolutely winging stuff like we saw him do against Khabib, I think he's gonna be in big trouble here. I think if there's any signs that he gasses early, he's gonna be in huge trouble against Holloway. But I will say he does seem a bit more composed now. I don't really know why people are writing off Holloway so early. Like it seems like that's the case at least. He's only 31 years old, coming off of a really, really impressive win against the Korean Zombie, one of the best of his career, absolutely smoked him. And has had time to prepare for this one. Seems to have an edge to him ahead of this fight in his interviews and stuff. And I'm just going to count on Gagey here not being prepared to strike with a boxer like Max Holloway for 5 full rounds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Korean Zombie win to me, though, it felt more like Korean Zombie was one foot in the grave and was just kind of ready to hang him up. It was a very emotional night. Obviously, his last fight, he retired afterwards. I don't know. I like the Gaethje value here on PS especially. I feel like this is the kind of fight that Gaethje tends to thrive in. I mean, you've seen only 2 losses since 2018, both coming to guys whose first instinct is to get the fight on the ground and end it that way. This fight will not be fought like that. Even if Gaethje thinks he has an upper hand there, you discussed that Holloway has whatever an 82% takedown defense rate. So this fight will be fought standing, I believe. And in those fights, Gaethje's passed every test with flying colors since 2018. It's super hard to pick against him here, and especially with Holloway trying to put that weight on again for this fight, I tend to lean Gaethje, but I wouldn't be shocked if it went the other way.
All right. Now, moving on to our next bout, and honestly, I think this might be my favorite fighter in the UFC.
Really?
Yeah, this was like the first, like, you know how when you're like a little kid or whatever, and you like think back to stuff. That's definitely not Zhang Weili. Obviously, I wasn't a little kid when I first got introduced to UFC, so my memories are a bit more recent. But Zhang Weili, I don't know why. I've got a really good memory of UFC impression with her. Very big fan.
I would agree. I have fond memories of Weili too. Like saw her live at 292. I actually have a Zhang Weili T-shirt.
Oh, that's
huge
sick.
fan. Yeah, she's dope. I am fully confident in her here. Fun fact: first ever Chinese on Chinese title fight. So that's pretty cool. But Weili, current champ, definitely a striker, but has evolved her fighting through her UFC career. She's a very gifted martial artist with real power, lands 6 significant strikes a minute. She's added some wrestling to her arsenal. She has 16 takedowns coming off of the title defense over Amanda Lemos, where she outstruck Amanda Lemos 163-24. Yan, great boxer, well-timed striking, clean in her technique. Her 2 UFC losses are to some pretty skilled women in Carla Esparza and Marina Rodriguez, and she got a KO over Jessica Andrade, actually. And Yan is really easy to take down when you level change because of the way she plants her feet when she strikes. I think if this was a striking match, maybe Yan could have a chance. If I thought there was any chance of this being a standing up bang sort of thing the whole time. But if Carla Esparza was able to take down Yan, finished her with ground and pound, I think Zhang fully has the capability to do the same thing. Yan, maybe the better striker. But we've seen Weili get touched up and win fights plenty of times. She's very tough. I think she could go down eventually as one of the best female fighters of all time, maybe the best female fighter of all time. So I'm going with my girl Weili here.
All right. Now, I guess we move on to the main event in itself here. We've got Pereira. If I can figure out which one he is. Let's type his full name out, Bells. That helps. Let's see here. Apparently not. There we go. Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira. I mean, I've never seen somebody that just had so much power in their just one hand. Like, this is insane.
Poetan.
I don't know. I'm in on the Poetan side, but I want to see, in theory, your guys' thoughts on this and how it would break down.
Grantimus.
I don't. I'll let you start. I'm very stuck in the middle on this one.
I think I was a little bit questioning this one. I think I've made my final decision where I'll be probably the whole time, though. I am on the Poetan side of things. Pereira, kickboxer, beat Israel Adesanya 3 times, moved up to light heavyweight. He's absolutely huge. This seems to be the right weight class for him. He seems healthy. He seems fit. And everyone's path to beating Alex Pereira is taking him down, getting him to the ground. He has 70% takedown defense, so does get taken down. Still pretty good, though. And he's coming off the win against Jerry Prochazka to become a 2-division champ at middleweight, light heavyweight. And now he's about to defend at light heavyweight. Jamal, former light heavyweight champ of the world, who relinquished his title when he tore his ACL, has a 7-3 striking differential, primarily a boxer with solid leg kicks that he uses to keep distance most of the time. Decent power, volume, and accuracy to make him a real threat on the feet. And Jamal had a major injury, required a big surgery. Some people do think that he's coming back too soon. I personally think Hill's striking is a little bit overrated. I think he would need to kind of get it gritty from like a grappling, scrambly standpoint in order to have a shot in this one, get it to the ground here and there. But we hear Jamal Hill's coach out there saying that Jamal's worlds better than Pereira at striking, which is absolutely ludicrous. If they're being serious and Jamal actually goes out there and believes that he can just outstrike Alex Pereira, like, it's going to end so bad for him, in my opinion. So it's going to be a close fight if he's able to dig into his full, toolbox of skills, so to speak. But I'm hearing stuff out of their camp that he's going to come in and try to KO Alex, and I don't trust him to do that.
Oh, I think this fight's totally going to be standing up unless he's come a ton way since January of last year, which, I mean, I feel like it's been mainly recovery from the injury.
Yeah.
Jamal has never landed or completed a takedown in his entire career in the UFC, which does not bode well against a guy who thrives and when the fight is strictly just standing and banging. It's hard for me to pick against Pereira in this spot. I do think Jamal is a talented striker. I think we'll know very quickly into the fight what the vibe is going to be, and we'll kind of know who the winner is going to be based on maybe a round or potentially even less than that. But I think in a standing fight, I'm going to lean with the guy with more power. There's going to be a ton of exchanges, and when you can get value on the guy that in those exchanges has the better chance of one punch ending the fight, I think it's tough to go against that guy. So I'll lean with Pereira as well.
I've also been seeing pictures of Jamal walking around looking like he has a basketball in his stomach too. So
Really
interested to see at the ceremonial weigh-ins like what he's looking like.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all it seems to be for what we have today. So, a bit of a longer breakdown than normal, but much needed for this particular card that we're getting. Should be a fun one. Not really too much else to say. Just excited. It's going to be a good time. And see how these analyses kind of play through. Thank you once again to
If
Jackson.
you had to pick one guy, Jackson, that you have seen no chance losing, or girl, I guess, who would that be?
Oh man. All right.
If it's not Bo Nickel, I don't know who it's going to be.
If it's not Bo, I think my
Jalen
most
Turner?
confident pick here. Well, it would be Kayla Harrison probably, but I'm not going to count
Oh,
that.
fair enough. Yeah.
Zhang Wei Li.
Jalen Turner, I think, is a
Turner?
lock for me. I'm super
Yeah.
confident on Jalen Turner.
Yeah. Everything else is pretty narrow odds. Obviously the two huge odds ones, but other than that, things are pretty tight.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's like you'd think because like we finally get these fighters that we actually know something about, it's going to be an easier read, but it's such close fights. Like it's great matchmaking.
I like Figueiredo a lot too. I'm very confident in his ability to get the job done as well. So one of those
I
two.
think Figgy should be able to get it done probably.
Oh yeah. Well, you guys heard it here first. Hopefully you adjust your portfolios accordingly, and we hope to see you at the profit line. But until then, peace, y'all. Best of luck with this card, and help Jackson get a Tony Finau round. Until then, peace, y'all.